A short tender fairy tale. About a man, a boy, chess, and life. A reflection on personal growth and a good relationship between generations.
Beyond the chessboard. The story of grandfather Mario and his grandson Dario. A life lesson. Welcome, dear viewers, to this captivating journey through the story of Dario and his grandfather Mario. Today, we will immerse ourselves in a world of strategy, intergenerational connection, and wisdom that goes beyond the simple chessboard. Part 1. The beginning of an extraordinary journey. In the heart of a bustling city lived an 8-year-old boy named Dario and his grandfather Mario. Despite the frenzy of urban life, Mario's home was a haven of tranquility and wisdom. But there was a passion that Mario wished to impart to his grandson. Chess.
Once upon a time, there was a large city in which lived an 8-year-old boy named Dario and his grandfather Mario. Despite the busy city life, there was a corner of tranquility and wisdom in the house of Mario, an elderly man with a face marked by time. Among the many passions, he had one that had accompanied him throughout his life, a passion that he wanted to share with his nephew Dario: chess. One day, Mario brought a chessboard out of a corner of his study and placed it with attention on the desk. Dario, a curious boy but a little reluctant to the idea of spending his free time learning such a complex game, looked at him with questioning eyes. "Grandpa, what are you doing with that chessboard?" Dario asked. Mario smiled and replied, "Dario, I want to teach you how to play chess. It's a game that requires strategy, critical thinking, and patience. Would you like to try? I already learned it at school." Dario replied. "You will have learned the rules of the game," said the grandfather. "And maybe not even all of them." Dario didn't seem very interested and preferred to have fun with a video game, but his own grandfather was so passionate and convincing that in the end Dario was convinced and accepted.
Part 2. Teaching and growth. Mario, an elderly man with a lifetime of experience, begins lessons. Initially hesitant, Dario becomes engrossed in the fascinating world of chess. Beyond the moves on the chessboard, Mario imparts to Dario the spirit of the game, a lesson that transcends mere strategy.
They began by repeating the basic rules, moving the pieces one at a time and carefully on the chessboard. Despite his initial lack of interest, Dario began to understand, little by little, the beauty and complexity of the game. He slowly realized that chess wasn't just a game, a pastime, but a kind of art, where every move was like one magical brushstroke on a painting. The lessons continued, day after day, with Mario passing his lessons on to Dario's experience and his passion for chess. He explained the different skills and tactics, the openings and strategies. But there was something more important that Mario was trying to teach his nephew, Dario. Always remember the spirit of the game. Chess is a mental challenge, but also an art form. Respect your opponent and appreciate the beauty of the moves, even if you lose. Over time, Dario began to see chess in a different light. He understood that they were not alone in a game, but a way to train the mind, anticipate the opponent's moves and develop a long-term strategy. He became more and more passionate about the game, and the bond between him and his grandfather became even stronger.
Part 3. Connection through matches. The matches between grandfather and grandson become a tradition in their home. Challenges, laughter, and teachings blend together as Dario grows not only as a chess player but also as an individual.
The games between Mario and Dario became a habit in their house. In the summer, the two of them liked to play by the sea, hearing the gentle sound of the surf and the pleasant cries of seabirds. They spent hours challenging each other, studying and learning from each other. Mario felt proud to see his nephew grow as a player and, above all, as a person. Dario, on the other hand, deeply admired his grandfather for his patience, his gaming experience and his kindness.
Part 4. Dario's success. Dario starts participating in local tournaments, putting into practice what he learned from his grandfather. Dario's victories outnumber his defeats, and Mario watches with pride as his grandson becomes a talented chess player.
Dario began to participate in local chess tournaments, where he put into practice what he had learned from his grandfather. His skills steadily improved, and his victories began to surpass defeats. Mario was a teacher proud of his disciple, and Dario was a grateful student. The images of this story are enriched with moments of joy and challenge. An image captures Mario's smirk as he explains a strategic move to Dario. Another shows Dario focused, eyebrows furrowed as he plans his next movement. In their matches, the emotion is palpable as the two battle it out their minds in an epic struggle. Over time, Dario had become a talented young chess player. He had learned from his grandfather not only how to move the pieces, but also the importance of respect for the opponent and appreciation for the beauty of the game. He had acquired the wisdom of his grandfather, and he had transformed into a young man who had learned to face challenges with courage and grace.
Part 5. The spirit of the game. Its significance and profound meaning. During a game, Dario even surprises his grandfather with a winning move, unexpected and innovative. He finally understands that spirit of the game that Mario spoke of so often. The story of Dario and his grandfather Mario is a testament to the power of friendship and intergenerational learning. Through the game of chess, they found a way to connect, learn, and grow together. Chess remains an anchor, an art, and a life lesson that continues to influence and inspire future generations.
One day, during a game, Dario made an extraordinary move that even surprised his grandfather. It was a bold move, a move that demonstrated a deep understanding that he had acquired some game. When he realized what he had done, Dario smiled and said, "Grandpa, I think I have finally learned the spirit of the game that you have told me so much about often spoken. It's as if chess has become part of me and I of it." Mario looked at him with proud eyes and said, "Dario, you have learned one of the greatest lessons important. Chess is one metaphor for life. Every move you make has consequences, and you always have to be ready to adapt to circumstances. I'm glad you understood." The story of Dario and his grandfather Mario is a testimony to the power of friendship and of intergenerational learning. Through the game of chess, they found a way to connect, learn and grow up together. Chess remains a point of anchoring, an art and a life lesson.
Conclusion. In this video, we have explored a story of connection, growth, and learning through the magical world of chess. A tale that reminds us that games can be much more than simple pastimes. They can become vehicles of wisdom and connection that last a lifetime. Thank you for joining us on this extraordinary journey. Don't forget to share, subscribe, and leave a like if this story has inspired you.